toxins.
Wow, what's that round circle?
That's just a single blood cell, but of all of the cells, this one is actually dying. You can see the little tiny serrated edges on the edge of that cell. So this one's actually dying off. One of the few that's actually separated.
Wow, interesting.
This is a white blood cell, how small they were. So white blood cells are supposed to be 2.5 to 3 times the size of a red blood cell. That's how impaired the immune function is.
Wow.
That small.
Interesting.
And that's from lack of water. Another one with blood pressure medication. This is gout. This is crystals, the harder crystals. Plaque has a very amorphous, what do I want to say? Gout has a defined crystalline shape versus plaque, which just has a hard, kind of amorphous. There's no real shape to it, but this is more like crystals. Yeah. Couple of oval. This is related to the low oils. This probably related to either thyroid, prostate, typical for men. Keep those oils up. This will fix itself.
Yeah.
Oils get converted via prostaglandins. So omega-3s get converted to prostaglandins. Prostaglandins can make any hormone your body needs. So it can literally fix these over a period of time if you keep those oils up.
Okay.
Now, I do want to point out this. So see how that just, it was caught there and it released?
Yeah.
So that can actually damage the cell membrane. When it catches, what it's catching on is a teeny tiny little particle that is crystallized in the blood plasma because your water is slightly low. Okay? And so when those, nobody's going to digest everything perfectly, although you're doing a pretty darn good job of it.
Yeah, good.
But you're going to have little particles that get in there that can crystallize. When they do, and this snags, that's what can create that rippling or free radical damage. There's one that's going across that little teeny tiny particle. And that's nothing more than an undigested food particle.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a couple.
Yeah,
yeah.
One thing I have been doing a lot of lately, the last few months, is papaya enzymes.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think they really help break down proteins. And
yep, they sure do.
Yeah.
Yep, they're called a prolytic enzyme, and if you do them on an empty stomach, they also get rid of old proteins, which are usually in the form of uric acid, which is inflammatory.
Yeah,
Okay.
my body's been like asking for that, so I've been like eating them like candy, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and eating a lot of papaya too.
Yeah. Oils are always really, really good.
And lately, last time they were really good.
Really good.
Wow.
And what happens is you see this little tiny bit of stickiness.
Yeah.
So oils add a negative charge to your cells. They make them more slippery so that they don't clump up at all.
Okay.
Your water's falling off a little bit too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
your
you're
hydration.
Right.
So you don't have as much flow pattern, and so what's happening is you don't have tight linkage of those red blood cells, but you have not as good of a cell wall, which is allowing them to get closer and a little bit closer together, not necessarily stuck, but moving continuously together because of the particle charge. Okay. Crystals goes with lower water.
Interesting.
Okay, now you're a protein eater, but if you're not drinking enough water, those particles can crystallize and harden, which can long-term create inflammation. So just a guard, gout.
Yeah, I have been eating more red meat.
Right. So this is a biggie when it comes to cherries and celery. Offset that because they both have properties that help to break down that uric acid that can form from the protein.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
And this is by far not clumpy. It's just that your oils have fallen off dramatically, and it's going to allow you to get a little bit of extra free radical damage in there. Okay.
Interesting.
I guess it was last week. I saw a lady that I could barely find 2 white blood cells for her. I immediately put her on shiitake and reishi mushrooms because those are things that can actually help your body produce more white blood cells.
I've been ODing on those. If it's something I've been good on, I've been taking lots of those.
Right. Yeah.
They, I think, have really helped my immune system.
Yeah.
Is that another
That's a neutrophil, another white blood cell. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
See the black lines? So those are environmental toxins. This is not your sample. This is just a picture.
Right.
So these are environmental toxins. Anything that gets into the bloodstream that can be harmful to the vital organs, because remember, the blood feeds the vital organs. Anything that gets in there, the body tries to harden it or crystallize it. Environmental toxins show up as these black lines.
So do you remember this patient and what was peculiar about them?
I do remember this patient. This was a 14-year-old kid, and he worked in his dad's diesel shop.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And that was why I took the picture. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is a kid.
Yeah.
And this is what he's exposed to. But he, you know, he comes in that day. I'm sure, you know, he had residues of stuff, you know, oil and chemicals and stuff on his hands, and doesn't think twice about it. You know, he also was eating potato chips when he walked in that day, which he has all the chronic signs of poor digestion, which creates high cardiovascular risk. Plus, he has the toxin inundation. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah. There's another picture here. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking about this, because it's in the same viewing. So, do you see this?
Yeah.
So, this is that starchy carbohydrate that creates yeast over a period of time.
Interesting.
Okay. They look like almost like like the shadow of a dandelion when it goes to seed. It's that little white puff ball that we see inside of the blood plasma, and these are all toxins. Now, when you have these toxins, remember, body doesn't keep this stuff in the bloodstream. No, this is actually a different lady. This is she lives on a golf course. And so when we have these toxins in here, what happens is our body moves everything through the interstitial tissues that it can. And so it creates an acidic environment. Starchy carbohydrates are present. You have inflammatory acidic environment, starchy carbohydrates, and then what we get a lot of times is fibromyalgia type of pains, because it's related to those microorganisms and an inflammatory
Toxins,
condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Look at your oils, the nice bright
my
bright
gosh.
greens. And they were almost non-existent last time. Remember how thin they were? This is all good oils.
I've been feeling great.
Yeah. Oils are they help with everything from hormonal to energy production. I mean, they're just so good for all the cells, protective. So all the junk that we're exposed to every day, it just doesn't get into our cells to create that damage. It protects them.
Like, give me an example of what would get into the cells, like bacteria, virus.
Auto exhaust.
Okay,
you know,
toxins.
You walk in here, even though this carpet is not new, it still emits things as it decays over time from just air and oxidation. So we're exposed to all this stuff that we really don't even realize. The sun beats in on the car and you get in, and the whatever it is, and the foam, it just atomizes into the air.
The fatty acids actually
they protect your cells from actually getting free radical damage from that stuff, which is why they're so super important. I don't mind a little bit of acute damage because it's come and go. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to have a little bit, but we don't want it to become chronic. And if you don't have oils for long, so this is an acutely damaged cell. And a chronically damaged cell is round, but it has a finger-like projection. And it's more than one generation damaged. This one is first generation. As long as you keep your minerals up, your hydration up, your good nutrients going in, your body will repair that immediately.
So how long has that been like that?
Could have been a day, could have been 2 months. But not more than 3 to 4 months. Yeah, because if this cell happens to be 90 days old, it could have happened right after if you were exposed to something. But next time it regenerates itself, if your body didn't repair it, it would have that other shape to it. So we know it's a first generation cell and your body can repair it. And when you look at your mineral content, your nutrients, I mean, you're going to repair that cell. Okay? Without question. Now, it's been, when was I here? January?
I think January.
So it's been January, February, 4 months. These are all in the normal size range. You still have a few large ones in there. So your B complex is much, much better, but still a little low. And that's just turnover of cells, normalizing that hormone response, cortisol, adrenaline, all of those things that are related. And when your oils were low, those hormonal secretions were out of balance too, because oils can produce any hormone that your body needs. Okay, so it helps long term with the stress response. So it'll just get better and better. But all of these are in the normal size range now.
Much better.
Much better.
Much thicker. That's great.
Super.
I feel great. I feel like definite difference.
Movement. I know you hydrate well. Be cautious. Summer's coming. Need more hydration because of the weather change. And we need to produce more white blood cells. A lot of times what happens if people are in that healthy category, their bodies will kick them out, but we call them atypical lymphocytes. They're not mature, so they really don't do anything. It's just the body responding as best it can. Well, I do the medicinal mushrooms, the reishi shiitake, so that my body, when it kicks them out, they're fully functional.
Yeah.
It matures them to a much higher level.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And can you touch on, I mean, I understand this, but I want to hear your words, like what you're seeing blood-wise with coronavirus patients, how the immune system, what you talk about with people, what they can do. Because, you know, there's this battle right now.
Absolutely.
You know.
So here's the first thing I'm going to say about that. Clients of mine that come in wearing masks have a tremendous amount of toxins.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Like 100% across the board.
Wow.
And I mean, people that traditionally have super blood that I see often, I'm like, do you wear the mask all the time? And they're like, well, we have to, don't we? And I'm like, no, we don't have to.
Right.
And they're rebreathing their CO2. And I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of that.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
That's probably the biggest thing. Bacterial cells, the granulocytes, are much higher, people that mask.
People that wear masks because they're fighting off the
Correct.
stuff they're rebreathing.
Correct, because of the moisture in the mask, bacteria has been shown to grow in it within 30 minutes.
Wow.
And so when they're wearing these masks all day long, when we started with these cloth masks, people were wearing them for weeks on end without washing them. I'm like, oh!
I know.
So it's horrible for it.
Yeah.
So that's the two biggest things that I see,
Interesting.
without question. The other thing that I see is the oxygen carrying capacity gets very faded.
Huh.
Because they're not exchanging oxygen
Right.
for CO2 as efficiently.
Right,
And so
right.
those are three biggies that
Right.
are related to the immune system.
Right.
And what are we trying to do? Keep our immune system strong, and here
Right.
we're depressing it.
Right. Be safe.
I know, exactly. Yeah, so
man.
it's terrible. And
Yeah.